Good evening, Saga. We just let a few people join. Oh, Shreyas, Mr. SS, how are you? I am SNS, okay. Good to have you join us. Juggi Rehal ji. Oh ho, kya baat hai, sir? So, guys, this is our another volume, Sat Sri Akal ji, volume of our DAC, Digital Audio Conversations, in the time of the COVID lockdown. And for people who don't know, I'm KJ Singh. I'm a sound engineer and a music producer. Sab theek hai, Jugi ji, working in the Indian music industry. I think I've just crossed about 35 odd years doing this work. And now, apart from doing live sound, film work, music recording work, I have my own label now called Asli Music. And since 2012, we've been running that, promoting new artists and working with new talent. So, right now, today, we shall be having a conversation with a relatively younger sound engineer, Manasi Tare. How are you, Manasi? Called Abhishek Khandelwal. And Abhishek works in a premier organization studio in India called the Yashraj Studio. And he's been there for quite some time. So I thought we should have a conversation with the younger lot as well to figure out what they are thinking in this time and day of COVID and the lockdown period, and their views on engineering and music. I see Abhishek has joined, and I think I need to send him an invite to join me in a conversation, so which I will right now.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. यार तूने अपने घर पे टाइल्स नहीं लगाई?
Sir, I couldn't work from home earlier. I couldn't concentrate at home as much. And I was so spoiled by being at YRF and the kind of equipment we have over there that I never felt the need of working at home actually. So I didn't go ahead for that. But in situations like this, I think I should have done that.
You should. Okay.
You know.
Abhishek, can tilt camera up a little bit because your forehead is getting chopped. थोड़ा सा कैमरा ऊपर कर ले. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, now we can see you against a green. That's good. He's not young. Oh, Mansi is saying Abhishek is not young anymore. Abhishek, you have an answer. I think she wants to take
Sir, I think I'm
the
still
youngest.
young.
Of course, we all are. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, Abhishek, before we begin, I just wanted to ask you a very relevant question in this time. Okay, are you ready for it? Okay. Hi, Dinde. So the question is, what are you doing at home? Are you washing the dish? Are you doing the washing machine? Or are you doing jhadu katka? What are you doing at home? How are you helping?
Sir, I'm doing everything from jharu katka to cooking. So me and my wife, we have shared our bits of work. Like when she's also working from home, she's in with insurance. So we kind of accommodate each other.
So I'm glad to hear that. So, Mr. Abhishek Khandelwal, आप किधर से उत्पन्न हुए? So where did you spring from your background into audio? So before you jumped into audio, there was an Abhishek Khandelwal. What is that Abhishek Khandelwal?
So, sir, just 1 second. So it actually all started when I was in college. I was doing my commerce graduation, and I was at Somaya College, and I was very keen to do something in music. So I joined with this DJ called DJ Nasha. That time remixes were the flavor, and Times Music was really promoting remixes and stuff. So I got into DJing. I learned from him a lot. I assisted him, used to go with him to the parties, kickstart the party as in when there were less people on the floor, that kind of stuff. And and after that, he started taking me to with him to studio. And the first studio I visited was at Takshila called the Geet Audiocraft by Jatin Sharma.
Geet Audio, my God. Yeah.
Yes. So I first time I
Okay.
went there and I was really fascinated with because that time at that studio everything was getting into digital. So I saw people
Just
working on
starting.
Pro Tools and yeah, just starting. And I was really fascinated how he like within 3 hours he managed to create a remix with MIDI
Wow.
loops and stuff. And I thought ki, this profession can give me a larger span in my life to work rather than being a DJ because there was a lot of
Wow.
competition and so I thought ki I should pursue this and that's how it all started, sir. So I went around looking for institutes where I could join, but as I was from a commerce graduate, I was from commerce. There were very few options available for me because physics and maths was needed subject
Needed
if
for
you
that,
wanted
yes.
to get into yeah a diploma. So I managed to find out about SAE, which was in Chennai that time,
Mm-hmm.
only in Chennai.
Right.
And yeah, I just took my bags, went there, and got myself enrolled. Came back and I told my dad, okay, now you need to pay the fees. And he was like, if you would have done MBA or something, I would have given you the money, but not for this.
Oh, he
And I
didn't
was
give you the
really
money.
disheartened. No, he didn't. And
Oh,
somehow I convinced my mom, and mom had a couple of her school friends who were working in a bank. And I managed to get all the permission for education loan. Okay, they approved the institute, the amount, and everything. The last thing required was my dad's signature.
signature.
So, yeah, and he was really proud of me at that time because he said, ki, okay, if you could do so much and you believe in yourself so much doing this, then I think I should let you do this. And
Wow.
they still regret that decision, saying that
Ah,
if you would have been in a you would have been a chartered accountant or MBA or something, you would have had a BMW. But slowly they realized that I am not having a BMW, but still I'm very satisfied and content with myself, which equally translates to my being with the family and how I spend my time with them, and me being as a better person than getting frustrated in an office doing a nine to
oh,
five job.
okay. So, what I'm getting out of this is something that. So, what prompted you to go into commerce? Like, is your parents had told you कि commerce करना है, job करना है, इसलिए you went into commerce?
Sir, actually, I didn't see myself going into science, and I was very fascinated with numbers. And I always wanted to get into portfolio management. And if I wasn't doing sound, I I would have seen myself being in stock market or something like that, because
Oh,
yeah. So at that time particularly, so I was pretty sure that I wanted to head in that direction. I also gave my CA foundation exam and stuff. I couldn't get cleared. I didn't clear my foundation, got thrown off by 4 marks. But yeah, I
oh,
think that was good that happened, and I'm here
okay.
today.
And as with every story, what people are also telling me here, the mother comes to the rescue.
Yes,
Okay, cool. So BMW ना सही तो उसमें M म्यूजिक तो आ गया ना, B और W भी
yes,
करेंगे वो आ जाएगा, म्यूजिक तो है, चलो
yes,
ठीक है. And started with remixing and getting into that part of the music industry. And so
right.
you had a career shift with joining Yashraj. So was there an interim period between learning the DJ and remix stuff and joining Yashraj?
Yes, sir. There was like so. What happened was after I was in touch with DJing, but I was not concentrating on it as much. I went to SA, did my course for 1 year, came back. I did my internship at Purple Haze Studio, and that's where I got to know about the reality of how things work in the studio and how you need to tackle with clients and stuff. And luckily, I got a job with Shantanu sir at Empire Studio, where I
Hmm.
was working as a Pro Tools engineer. That time, everybody was called like a tape operator. There was a Pro Tools engineer.
Yes.
So because yeah, so because everything shifted from tape, and DAW was more of a recorder than anything else. And slowly things got evolved, and I became from Pro Tools engineer to assistant engineer to associate engineer. So I spent around 2 years at Empire Studios with Shantanu sir, and that helped me to learn a lot about the analog world and the combination of how to make a hybrid setup. I mean, how to get the best of the both worlds. We did some tape recordings also
So
over
you were
there.
at the Empire in the basement studio, which had the SSL and the 2 inch
Yes, sir.
24 track, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So initially we started. We did few recordings with Warren also, the band called Zero. So where we
That's
first
right.
time for me it was like we tried recording everything to tape, and then the tape returns coming back into Pro Tools, and we recording simultaneously from the tape to Pro Tools, capturing that saturation and warmth of the tape.
So you learned that hybrid system much earlier on than most people when it was just happening at that point of time.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. But did you also learn aligning of 2 inch 24 track?
No, sir. I couldn't get that much opportunity because uh, first thing was tape was fading out, as in availability of tape, and the whole work culture had shifted. Like in those days when people used to record on tape, most of the section was recorded together, but those things started waving off. In the sense,
What
you
year
had
would
only the
this
written
be?
section.
Abhishek, what
This
year
was
would this
in
be?
2003, sir.
2003. Okay. So that's like what? Okay. Yeah, 17 years back.
Yes, sir. So everybody was shifting to the DAW format, and everybody was very excited about the flexibility it gave you, the kind of things you could do
Yeah,
with
yeah.
it, the kind of punches you can do, the corrections, copy pasting. So slowly, everything shifted to Pro Tools, and there were very few clients who would like to record on the 2 inch and incur that kind of cost and time
Cost,
in the
yeah.
studio.
So, so when the shift from by Shantanu to let's say Yashraj happened, and you just went along, you were a package deal.
Yes, I was a package deal in the sense he was given the opportunity to take his own team, and
Deal.
that time I was the only guy working with him at Empire, handling everything with Shantanu sir. So he gave me this opportunity, and I landed up at YRF.
So somebody wants to know, Rushik Patel, I think wants to know, can you name some of the songs you recorded on tape at Empire Studio?
Sir,
Anything?
I don't remember the song, but Zero's first album, Zero's first album, yeah, we recorded there.
That was on 2 inch
So
tape.
that was on 2 inch tape.
Okay.
I
So
think it
hey,
was their first album. I think, yeah.
okay, guys. So you can check out Zero's first album and listen to it to know what tape sounded like vis-a-vis maybe their other albums. So that will be an indicator. So Yashraj happened in what, 2004 or something around that?
2005, sir. After
2005.
2005, yeah, tsunami happened, and before that, we had already taken the decision, and I had already put in my papers, as in I was supposed to shift to Yashraj. But because of tsunami, things got delayed, and I also got a break between leaving Empire and joining YRF.
Joining YRF. So, guys,
Yeah.
for people who either know Abhishek or don't know Abhishek, is that since 2005 onwards, most of the films which have come out of Yashraj, particularly Yashraj's own banner and all the others as well. So, Veer Zara, I think was your first one, which you did with them.
Sir, Wheels, actually, my first film was with YRF was Bunty or Bubbly, where
Bunty
they
or
were
Bubbly.
recording it.
Okay,
But it
okay,
was
okay.
at Empire, and Veer Zara
Okay.
also was at Empire. So we recorded the score for Veer Zara, and Veer Zara songs were happening at Studio One, which is in the same building
Same
with
building,
Pramod
right?
sir.
Right.
Yeah. So the first project which I worked at YRF Studios for YRF was Dhoom 2.
Dhoom 2, straight into Dhoom 2. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And so Abhishek has been involved with YRF projects, most of them as a song mixing engineer assistant. And so you can see his credits on IMDb. He's done more than 30 odd films there with them. So for you, the transition from going from Empire to Yashraj would not have been too radical because systems were still the same. The hybrid system continued.
Yeah, the hybrid system continued, but it was a very good opportunity for me because the studio was getting set up. So I was given the beauty of getting everything connected the way I would like it to be, because Shantanu sir said, I'm not going to patch physically. I'm just going to tell you what kind of signal chain I want. and you need to do it. So you need to make sure that everything is in the right place, and it's going to be easy for you. But at the same time, if some other engineer wants to come and work at YRF, he shouldn't be, he shouldn't feel like, okay, I don't know why is this thing so complicated, which doesn't need to be. So we made sure that the system was really easy and everything was floating, so you could patch anything wherever, however you wanted. Like you, sir, you've been at YRF and done so many projects over there, utilizing our facility. So I'm sure you would have felt really good, and you would have appreciated the kind of workflow we had over there.
No, I do. In fact, I remember at one preview screening of a film, because for guys who don't know, Yashraj also has a Dolby Atmos mixing room, fabulous mixing room with an engineer called Anuj Mathur who runs it. And that room is utilized as a preview room once the mixing is done in the evenings, so it's built like that. So I remember at one point sitting watching some movie, I don't remember which one, and when the lights came on in the interval, I looked to my left and there was Yashi sitting next to me. So, as I went up to him and said, Yashi, you don't know me, but I just need to say something to you, and which is that I, as an engineer, want to just thank you for building this fabulous facility so that we don't have to, keep thinking in our head that, when will I get the budget and the money to go abroad and record in this fabulous big studio with such a spacious place, great gear and everything. So I said, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you actually made this place, and he turned to look at me and said, तुम लोगों के लिए ही तो बनाई है और यूज करो इसको जितना हो सके, ये तुम लोगों के लिए है. So that was such a beautiful gesture by him, So yes, it's an incredible international level facility that he made for everybody here, and all of us who work there have some amazing memories about it. So, what is your most memorable moment at Yashraj up till now? Any one or two of them which you remember?
Sir, one of the most memorable moments is when we got to record with Ilayaraja sir, and I was really, really in awe, like I'm going to record with a legend like that. And the first minute he spoke to me was depressing also, because he asked me, he kept a score chart in front of me.
Asked you to read.
And he asked you to read. And I'm like, I was really sweating in the AC, and he was like, what happened? I'm like, sir, I can't read. And then he was like, and you call yourself a music engineer. But within an hour of the recording, he was pretty happy with my work, and he said, okay, you can, if you don't know reading, but you still understand the musical language. So it's not it's not like a handicap for you, and I'm not suffering over here with you. And I remember in a recording, I wouldn't name the singers, but he was very much clued in with the technology and everything. And the first piece of gear which used to come in, I'm sure he used to audition that, why is it so worthy and what is different in it. And there was a duet which we were recording. There were two singers over there, and they got stuck at a sargam because of the way, the dynamics and everything he wanted. And he asked me to keeping the takes. And after around 20 takes, he gave them a 5-minute breather, and he asked me to chop out, that
Comp
piece
the whole
from
track,
there, that piece from there, comp the whole track. And after that, he pressed the talk back and he said, thank you, Abhishek did a great job. And I was like, okay, so I'm safe right now. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And
so, anything else apart from Ilayaraja sir?
Yes, and there are so many more moments, but one more thing which I remember is recording with Herbie Hancock, sir. It was a privilege. And we did this one song on this project called Imagine Project, which he was doing. He was touring different countries, and he was collaborating with artists over there. So I got to record with Herbie Hancock, Shaka Khan, Chitra Ji, Satyajit, and Anushka Sharma. Anushka Sharma also. Anushka Shankar, sorry.
Anushka Shankar, Ravi Ji's daughter. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So,
yes.
And you also had the opportunity to work with AR, who I believe was working in your studio.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how was that?
It was really good, sir, because I didn't get as much opportunity with him when he was doing Jab Tak Hai Jaan,
Hmm.
because a lot of stuff used to happen in his other studios also wherever he was, and very few things used to happen at YRF as far as recordings are concerned. But there is a songwriting room where Yashji and Adi sir and AR sir used to jam over there when they were composing. But I got this opportunity to record Babelsberg Orchestra when he was
Right.
touring with them, and at the same time to learn with Alan Meyerson sir, and you were also there, sir. So
Yeah, we were there.
it
He
was
did a master class there on orchestra recording. Yeah.
yes, he also did a master class. So it was a really fabulous session because not just AR sir, his writing and his arrangement, but also got to learn so much from Alan Meyerson sir, and to learn his perspective about how to record an orchestra and how do they do it over there.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great learning from him, I must say. I think whoever was there really benefited a lot. And thanks to AR as well, because he kind of made sure that the
Yes,
masterclass happened while the orchestra was there, and he flew down Alan and his assistant, both of them. And he also got all his engineers from Chennai, from his studio, and said, "Hey, I
yes,
think all of you need
yes,
to come and check this out." So that's fabulous when
absolutely.
people in that position who have the wherewithals can make that thing happen for others to learn. I think that's a beautiful thing because opportunities are so less otherwise when to
Yes.
learn that. So that's good. So tell me, what has been your space and your learning vis-a-vis? Are you still dependent a lot on the analog console? You have a beautiful Neve 88R, or now you
Absolutely, sir.
think in the box is where you are at? Because I still remember you used to do all these small mixes in that drum booth at the back, setting up your own thing
Yes,
there.
yes,
All in.
yes.
So, what is it for you right now? Is it totally in the box right now, even though you have luxury of such a beautiful console, or what is it?
So, like you said, luxury. I mean, if I have the time, I would love to pass it through the real thing. But saying that, the plugins and the plugin developers have upped their game so much that slowly they are getting there to make it sound as if not the same, but maybe on par with the analog gear. I still feel on every project where I don't get to use them that I wish I had the time and the luxury to do that.
Okay. And I'm sure everybody would like to know any of your favorite plugins that you think are really at par now with the hardware side in terms of emulation, which you really like. You have the hard. You see,
Sir,
you have a rack of hardware,
yes,
which I'm
yes,
sure now you have
yes,
the plugin.
yeah,
So you have an
yes.
opportunity which is rare with most engineers to actually, if you have the time to do an A and B. So which one do you think you have which really works for you as a plugin?
So the first plugin which I thought was really on par with the gear was the Neve 88 RS plugin by UAD. That's the
Yeah.
first one I
Okay.
tried, and I always used to suffer with the kind of EQ textures we used to get from the console. And
Yeah.
sir, like in analog domain, sometimes the channel is not sounding the
Not
same,
working, right?
and you're scratching, you're getting bugs, and you're scratching your head. So, and trying to emulate that same thing in the box used to be tedious and time consuming.
Mm.
So just getting that replica was a really great thing for us. So I would say the UAD NEEM 88 channel strip was really
How
amazing.
close is it?
I got
How
to
how how close is it? Like in when you compare, suppose you've done something through the channel strip and the channel strip is not working now, and then you have to shift to the plugin, and if you copy the same parameters, how close do you find it if you've used it like that?
Sir, I would say it's not exactly the same, but
Mm-hmm.
it's 80% there, 80 to 85% there. It
Okay.
also boils down to, like, in analog domain, every channel might sound slightly different because of the
Different. That's
component
right.
wear and tear.
Okay.
So, but still the kind of curves and the kind of gain boost and the gain structures you have, it's
Mm.
almost the same. So, um, I would say it's around 85 to 90% there, the newer ones. So you don't have to work really that hard to achieve the same thing with some third party plugins.
Right.
Also
Somebody
the
asked that,
BX
and
console,
yeah, I was just going to say the what is the BX guys, Brainworks
the
guys have
BX
come out with
console
this
is
concept of
really,
emulation so
TNT.
that each channel sounds different.
Yes, yes, sir.
I think up to 64 or 72 channels you can have, each one having their own characteristic.
Absolutely, sir.
And Dirk is
So,
kind of that.
yeah,
Yep.
so
Hi,
for
Warren.
now,
Warren is here as well.
hi, Warren.
Okay. So that's what your take on plugins is. I remember we talked about once I'd gone to Yashraj and you were so excited about getting the DQ plugin that you used a lot. Which was that one? The Eloisis. Which was the one you used?
iOSIS.
iOSIS. That's the one you used a
iOSIS
lot and you were
IoT.
fascinated by it.
Right.
So what's the story with that?
Yes.
You really like that plugin? Why?
I still like the plugin because it can be you can get really surgical with it in the sense the way I look at things, and I can really notch out things. So it's more of getting the sound right. All cutting out all the unwanted buzz or the unwanted whistles you get from if the source is not recorded very well. So it helps me to do that a lot.
Okay. So Abhishek, let's just go through. You have this huge facility at Yashraj, and I'm sure because of that, you've recorded a large ensemble, whether they are strings, whether they are Indian rhythms. You've recorded that a lot there as well. So, how does that work for you when you've recorded such a large section and you have enough space, so you get room tone, you're recording that? I remember doing a Spud album. We had something like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 mics on a piano. I mean, just to get different tonalities because we had that
Absolutely.
luxury. And suppose then you have to switch back to something like totally in the box where somebody is recorded at home and somebody's just voice recorded acoustic guitar or some stuff at home and then send it to you. So how do you flip your brain around that and work with that suddenly out of having recorded the big studio thing?
So I recently did one mix of this track Jam 5 by Isani De, where the drums were recorded at Darshan's place, his own studio, small compared to YRF. When I say small, everything is compared to YRF big room.
YRF, right.
And yeah, Ishani doing guitars at her own place, Joyda did the bass at his own place, and Hitesh recorded keys. So everybody recorded at a different place and sent it to me. And the first thing my mind thinks is how to achieve that same sound or that same bigness. So what I try to do is I try to, like you said, create those 8 mics in my session itself and have them at different spaces. For example, if the drum room mic was supposed to be there, how far it was supposed to be there, and what kind of blend I need to get in there. And for that, I use a lot of Ocean Way Studio from UAD and different reverb plugins, which help me to create that room and create that illusion that it has been recorded in a big space. So if you guys want to check out something, you should listen to Jam 5 by Ishani De. It's on YouTube. Just got released on, I think, 13th of May. I mixed it on headphones, on completely in the box. But I have an advantage of having that sonic impression in my head of the large gear, the analog gear, the large room. So in a way, I'm trying to achieve that. So I think most of the people, if they have experienced that, it's easier for them to emulate that in the box.
Okay, so that's what you're saying, that the sonic imprint of where you are, and then you kind of have that reference in your head, then it's easier to create that in the box because you know what it sounds like. But you are really fortunate. I mean, the people who work at Yashraj have this huge luxury that you have this space that you can listen to what instruments sound like in that. So what advice would you give to people who don't have that option or a luxury and they are just sitting at home and they've never been to Yashraj or they've heard spaces like that? So how do they work with things like in the box mix and create that space?
I think for them a starting point would be to listen to great recorded albums, great recorded and mixed albums. Listen to everything recorded by Al Schmidt. He's my guru's guru, Shantanu sir's guru.
Yes,
and that he is a god. Trust me, guys. He can make things sound so different just by changing the mic position and what he's hearing. So if you hear his take on it, and if you hear the way he records his stuff and the kind of space he records it in, you will, and you try to copy that, I'm sure you will try to achieve what he's trying to do. There was this one trick which he shared with people online, saying that how do you get that large and big vocals? So where he said he uses four different kind of chambers. He uses actual chambers over there at Capitol
Okay.
Studios, and he uses them as mono sources and then accordingly pans them.
And
So to achieve that, so to achieve the same thing, what he recommended was you can have in the box you can have four different mono chambers, and you can accordingly span them wider the way you want it with different times. So a left chamber, maybe you are using a Brainworks room chamber at say 1 second. The right one can be a waves chamber at 1 second, but because they are chambers, they might sound similar at 1 second, but they will give you a stereo impression because they are not the same.
true.
And you can have another two more chambers at 2 seconds on left and right.
Right.
And they all were mono. It never occurred to me how to achieve that if he wouldn't have shared that
Said
technique
that,
with
yeah.
us.
Yeah, that's right. It's something which engineers used to do that a lot earlier as well. Actually, use instead of using a stereo reverb unit, you actually use two mono units, left and right, and try and
Yeah,
send similar things, or like you said, two different manufactured or designed reverb units. And just by being one is waves or one is UAD or one is BX or something, just by being that they're emulated differently, you will get a slightly different, though even like you said, they are chambers. You will get a little different, and there'll be movement happening between them. You will actually get a sense of
yes.
space and movement, which is absolutely right. And I also read that from one of Al's lectures and stuff like that. And we tried it. It works really, really well, no doubt about it. I think Sudeep is here. Aditya is here from Sudeep Audio. Ankit Dayal is there,
Hi
who's been in the
Aditya.
studio a
I
lot.
must thank I must thank Aditya. He got me my ozone upgrade in like 3 hours time. So I was like, Aditya, I need to do this before the sale, goes off. And he was like, don't worry, I'll get you. And
Yeah,
in 3 hours
Aditya.
time,
Yeah, Aditya has
I
been a
had it.
huge supporter of
Yes,
everybody
he's
in
been a huge
India.
support. Yes.
He has supported everybody beautifully. So thank you, Aditya. We acknowledge that publicly, that you have been a huge support for all of us. So thank you once again, Sudeep Audio. Uh, so, having said that about textures and having gone to in the box totally on this, what would you say? What happens like you are assisting somebody like Shantanu Hudlikar? Now,
Hmm.
when you're hearing a piece of music or a source, Shantanu has his own perception of how he wants to do things, and you have something else in your mind how you want to process it. Then how do you work that out between the two of you in case there is a difference in terms of how you feel and he feels about a sound or a particular thing? Has that
So
happened a lot of
I've
time?
been not a lot of time, sir, because what has happened is I've been groomed by him. So in a way, I have taken his sound in my head, but I also have my own way of say maybe we both want to have a slap reverb on the snare or on vocals, but maybe both of us are thinking of different slap or a different time,
Okay.
and accordingly we will go back and forth thinking which sounds best for the song, or maybe while recording it's a choice of mic. But we do follow one thing is we don't try to fix it unless and until it doesn't sound right. So we don't try to uh, make it complicated as such. If the mic is sounding good, then we don't try to get in each other's space and try to change it unless it's not working really for the song.
Okay. And as if you're doing a song mix, obviously you are running your Pro Tools playback through the console and then recording it
Right.
back into the console as a stereo mix. So, like we discussed, you're doing a hybrid system. So, percentage wise, how much is the console adding to the whole thing vis-a-vis the plugins which are in the box? Because you're still doing, apart from the line in, which is changing the tone anyway, compressor, EQ,
Absolutely.
gates, how much of the console do you end up using and how much of the plugins do you end up using? Any idea, like rough idea as to percentage wise, how much would it be in a song?
So, sir, I would say it's Percentage wise, sir, I won't be able to tell you how much percentage. I mean, you guys judge it. But a lot of times, what happens, all the kind of detailing and all the kind of EQ and stuff, it
Hmm.
happens in Pro Tools itself because the way things are moving, you need to be really fast. The kind of changes you get, the kind of edits you get, the kind number of
Right.
versions you need to make. So you need to make it make things work really fast. But at the same time, you need to basically get the best out of the console also. And it has happened to me. I've done so many mixes in the box, and the moment I just take it out of the 16 tracks on the console, I know this is what was missing. I've been trying breaking my head for past 3 hours, and it wasn't gluing together. And it was just about reassigning it to 16 outs, and it's there. I don't need to do anything. So in that way, it has spoiled me a lot to because sometimes I have struggled in the box to achieve that last 5%,
Hmm.
and that everything happens just within minutes if it's just getting summed through the console because the kind of width you get, the kind of depth you get from the console is just different. I can't
Yeah.
explain it in terms of words.
Yeah. Of
So
course. Yeah, no doubt about that. Somebody is asking, do you really need third-party plugins, or do you think the stock plugins which come with the software are good enough?
Uh, well, it all boils down to your choices. I mean, if you're asking about plugins, I have so many hardware EQ and gear. Like people ask me, do you need the GML? Do you need the Avalon? Do you need the Aurum? Do you need the SSL? I would like to say is they all give different colors. So if you understand that every EQ and every reverb has its own color and it has its own texture, whether it's an emulation or whether it's a standalone plugin developed without any emulation. It's up to you. Sky is the limit. I can work with, if I had just 10 plugins like a basic EQ, a basic delay, reverb, I'll still do a mix. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say, okay, I can't do a mix. I'll still have to do the mix and give it to the client or for my own purpose also. So it all depends. If you have the luxury of having everything, you do get, but there is a catch to it. You might get confused unless and until you have gone through each and every plugin and you know
You know what
what
to
each
do.
and every what they do and what kind of color they give it to you. So I would say it takes a lot of time and experience to evaluate what plugin sounds what and how. So if you have
Okay.
that kind of time, definitely do. I mean, I'm still learning. I still somehow feel कि okay, GML might sound okay, and the next thing I know, okay, let's try it from the tube tech, and I'm like, man, this tube tech sounds even better for this one. So it all boils down to what you want.
Right.
I would say
Okay.
कि start with minimal number of plugins, try to understand what kind of tone they give to you, and then move on to next things.
Great. Hi, Ankit. I think he's asking a question. My wife Poonam is also here. Aditya Virmani is here. Okay. So Ankit has a question, and I will respond to that. That most of the engineers in the hardware time actually, when we were working only with hardware, their people went to those engineers not only for that they had great talent in terms of how they handled people, how they worked in the console, and they had good ears, but also that they knew their gear very well. So, person knew the piece of equipment that he had. He knew them inside out. He knew what they could do, and he had spent years listening to what happens when you put your sound through it. So I think similarly, what you're trying to say, and I'm putting it together, is that we all need to, if you're especially starting out, you all need to spend time with your gear. Now, the gear I'm referring to is not literally the hardware gear, but even the plugins is now gear for everybody concerned. So you need to spend time with it to understand what it does and put a signal through it in its default setting and then mess with the signal and see what it does, push the signal and see what it does. And like you remember the sonic imprint of Yashraj Studios' room, we all have to try and remember the sonic imprints of all the plugins, or the plugins at least that we work with or we like to work with. What do they sound like? Once you have that, then it starts to be a more efficient way of working when next you want that sound which is in your head. And then you remember, I had done this with that plugin, I want to get that same thing back. So spending time with learning that, And we have an interview coming up with Damanji on Friday. I'll just sharing that with everybody. And I saw those guys do that in all the times that when the recordings got cancelled and they had free time. You know what they did? They would ask their operator, put on this old tape recording that we have, and they would be processing stuff through the hardware that they had just to figure out what it sounds like so that they get used to it. And I thought that was such a nice way to learn project rather than saying, okay, today's an off day, let's go and have bhel puri and go home. But they didn't. They stayed back and they did all this. So same with plugins, I guess you just need to know them, what they do, print that thing in your head, and I think you'll get it. Ankit asked a question saying, how do you keep objectivity after mixing for such long hours or working and hearing the same sound for long hours? And sometimes you have those huge ass Genelecs sitting up there, and even the big ones are not that small. So how do you maintain objectivity?
So talking about the Genelecs is just it's just there to make the producers feel good,
Yeah, the producer mixer, the producer speaker.
Yeah, just blast them and make them feel, yeah, man, it's pumping. But yeah, if you want to work longer hours, I would suggest you should work at quieter levels. It will help you to reduce ear fatigue. And at softer levels, I believe that the frequency spectrum you can judge is better. So again, it all boils down to engineer, what is their preference. Some people like to work on headphones, some people like to work soft, some people like to work at various different levels at the different time of the day. It all boils down to that. But for me, it's mainly when I'm mixing, it's going to be like really soft. I do blast my mixes towards the end of the day just to know whether it's piercing my ears if I'm blasting it too much, because I don't want it to hurt my ears also, So, and at YRF we have like the Dynas, which are soft dome tweeters, and the Genelecs, which are the horn tweeters. So the high frequency, really, the mid range is really different on them, the way they translate. So we are very grateful because we have both the kind of speakers and we know how the mix is going to translate on both of them. So we are very fortunate in that terms. But if you don't have those kind of options, still do try and hear on different kind of headphones and different kind of boom boxes. Boombox in the sense Bluetooth speakers, because the way technology has moved further, basic soundbar also sounds really good, and the kind of frequency spectrum it can reproduce nowadays is far superior than back then. Even the televisions nowadays, television nowadays have superb sounding audio system. So I think you should just listen to your mixes on everything and see how it translates. And maybe, sometimes you hear it on headphones and you might feel, okay, these are a different pair of ears. Maybe I'm making sense or not, but it just makes you feel now you're listening with a different pair of ears. The way the mix is translating, the way your mid-range is translating and the bass is translating.
Okay.
So it really helps to keep that objective.
Okay, great. So I think Sagar has answered that as well. You need both mixing in the studio and headphones. You should try both speakers and headphones. Rohan here has a question. What do you find difference between working on an indie band versus Hollywood or Bollywood?
Difference being key, when not much as per se, but the thing is with the indie band there is a lot of scope in the sense you can change things if the band agrees with you, the kind of sonic impression they want to create with the song. With Bollywood, what happens is most of the things are predetermined in the sense the composition, why it's written, the lyrics, and why the song existed, and what's the story behind the song. With indie bands, there are a lot of permutation and combinations you can try. In Bollywood, because they come with a pre-notion the way they want the song to be, because that's how it has been born. Say, for example, a love song, it might be a ballady love song, it can be a heavy love song, it can be a different version, ambient, electronica kind of love song. So they have that pre-notions, but indie bands may be open to that. Like maybe they will listen to you and they will let you experiment with their song because they want to know what's the limit for this one. With
Yes.
Bollywood, there is a limitation in that way
The
because
limitation you
there are a
feel
lot
in
of
that.
people that needs, yeah, there are a lot of people it needs to go through, and there is a sonic impression it has already created when it was composed and presented to the producer and director.
Okay. So more room to kind of, if there are any more changes to change a path in terms of something musically is there with indie bands vis-a-vis you're saying with Bollywood, they come with a preset notion and they have to fall in that. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Okay. So somebody is also asking something about the super time machine which you are using. Are you using some super time machine or something? Somebody keeps asking me that. I don't know what that is in moving your.
Not really, sir.
Okay. Do engineers don't master the songs themselves, then send the songs to mastering engineers? So why don't you
Uh,
master
I
your
I
own song?
ma- I do master my own songs, but if I had the opportunity, I would definitely send it to a mastering engineer. I do master my own songs because nowadays people want to know exactly how it's going to sound. So when I'm finalizing my mixes, I need to also kind of master it. A lot of times we don't have the time to send it to the mastering engineer, but it will always help you if you're sending it to a mastering engineer because he's listening to it from a different perspective, and he might do something which you haven't thought about, and he might give you some comments which might work in your favor also. So I would always say, if you have the opportunity, if you have the time, do send it to a different mastering engineer
Okay,
and don't
sure.
master it yourself.
I agree totally. There's so many times you actually go to a mastering engineer for another perspective in a room which is
Yes.
excellently treated, and he has so much experience, good years, so that he can actually pinpoint things in case there are issues with your mix, or he can, bring certain things out which you might have missed in your room, particularly. So I think a suggestion would be that for most people who are working out of home, particularly if you're mixing stuff at home, it might be a good practice to send your mix to a mastering engineer, particularly because he can, in a lot of times, he can correct those anomalies which might be there in your room, and which is a good thing for your mix to turn out. So yeah, you should use a mastering engineer as much as you
That
can.
mastering engineer can be me also.
So here we have Abhishek as a recording engineer, mix engineer, mastering engineer, and let's quickly talk about your entrepreneur side as well, which I think earlier, which your parents wanted to do commerce, you finally got back into. So what is all that about,
Yeah.
Abhishek? Let people talk hear about that as well. What is it?
So yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but I am also part of a company called AR Acoustic LLP, which owns a brand called Ultra Acoustic, and we are into providing solutions, acoustic solutions to varied genre of stuff, from home theater to auditoriums to professional studios to home setups, whether it's for your podcast or whether it's for your mixing room, recording room, whatever. We do have uh, pre-designed kits also for your room. If you go onto Ultra Acoustic website or if you go onto sudeepaudio.com, you will find a lot of details over there, and it will really help. I would definitely suggest you guys, whether you use Ultra Acoustics or not,
Okay.
please do treat your room. The pair of speakers you are investing in might be, maybe ranging from a lakh to 10 lakhs. And trust me, they will sound even better if you just try to do a little bit of homework on acoustics and little bit of keep your budget little bit for acoustics. Whether you do your DIY method or you take, ideas from online things available, do treat your room because it makes a hell lot of a difference.
Right. You have Rohan here who says he's already installed it in his home studio. There you go. You have a client endorsement, Abhishek. So,
Yes.
how are you managing that? In the sense, you have your time given for your recording work, and then you have your business side of
Yes.
another thing. So, how do you juggle between the two?
So predominantly, I'm involved with recording and my, as a sound engineering aspect. But that company is taken care by my partner and my friend Amit Bhardwaj and
Okay.
his wife Ruhi Parashar. So both of them, they handle the company, and we have a technical team who's into R&D. We have a workforce who's into designing and making the products. So I basically entered just to give technical suggestions and just to make a business plan per se, like how the business is going to go further, what all sectors we need to go in, what kind of difficulties a musician or an engineer or a listener would face in a listening environment.
So you
So
bring
all
in the
those
real
things.
experience of actual user, so to speak,
Yes,
because that's what you do.
yes,
Okay, so that's
yes.
cool. So tell me, we have just about 8 minutes more to go, Abhishek. So I will just do one quick rapid fire with you in terms of what I've been asking every engineer. So what would be your favorite food?
My favorite food would be dal, chawal, roti, and aloo ki sabzi.
Dal chawal roti. Oh, okay, simple man. Okay, and what would be your
Yeah.
favorite color?
My favorite color is red, sir. Red and
Ah, we
black.
have a break. We had two back-to-back blues, and now we have red. So it's 2:1. Your favorite color is red. Very romantic, Mr. Abhishek.
Red and black.
Uh, and red and black. Okay. And
Yeah.
so I'm also going to ask you. So what's your favorite dishwashing soap? Since you've been doing the dishes.
Vim ki chamkar.
Okay, that's the one you recommend for everybody who's doing dishes at home.
Yes.
Okay,
मोदी जी
good.
के हिसाब से हमें अपने प्रोडक्ट्स खरीदने चाहिए तो
हाँ,
विम
आत्मनिर्भर. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल आप सही कह रहे हैं.
आत्मनिर्भर.
आत्मनिर्भर. So, where do you see this going, Abhishek, with this lockdown and social distancing, physical distancing? What is your take on this happening with our recording industry?
It's going to change. It's going to change quite a bit because people are now going to. I think it's just speeded up the way people used to work. As in, there was a time when someone, if needed to send a file for mixing to us, and he was at Lokhandwala, he used to still upload it. He was like कि नहीं यार ट्रैफिक पे इतना टाइम लग जाएगा. मैं तेरे को अपलोड कर देता हूँ. तू फाइल डाउनलोड कर मिक्स करके मुझे मिक्स भेज दे
Big
और मैं
pace.
यहीं पर अपने सिस्टम पे सुन लूंगा बिकॉज I'm working here. I can judge things better because I know these speakers. I know how this room translates. So I think it's just going to speed up that process that people are going to start working from home. They are going to be Atmanirbhar from home. They will have their own little setup where they can do stuff where they don't need to be in a studio if not required. So I think that's what is going to kickstart as that's going to speed up quite a bit now. Everybody is going to have a setup at home. Everybody is going to have like a sound card, a machine, a pair of speakers, headphones, treated room where you can sit and do what you feel like.
Treated rooms. So that reminds me. So that's good for your
Yes,
business, Abhishek. Ah, you are smiling.
absolutely.
So I can see that happening. Okay. What does your family think about your work now? I mean, from the time that you took the loan and what your parents were thinking, what do they think about it now after having seen you work with so many artists, so many people, and a body of work that you've done? What do they think about it now?
Uh, Sir, they changed their perspective because, frankly speaking, when I used to work at Empire, I my dad used to just say कि I don't know कुछ recording वगैरह का काम करता है, and then I joined Yashraj Films, and everybody knew Yashraj Films. And
Right.
the day I told my dad कि okay, I'm going to work at Yashraj Films, like Yashraj Films, Yash Chopra, and I was like yeah, and he had a shine in his eyes like he man. You're going to work with Yash Chopra, And then he visited the facility over there, and the first question my mom asked was, "Do you know all these buttons? You're not that great at studies." So they have kind of they've realized that ki I'm doing what I love, and this is who I am, and they are really fascinated that I'm doing so much of stuff with. I mean, also starting a company as an entrepreneur with Amit and
Yeah.
Ruhi, but more importantly, they have like a wow factor that okay, my son has done this song, he's worked on this song, and they really feel proud about me,
So do
and
they
they really
go?
feel
Yeah, yeah.
and they're really fascinated when they say कि, okay, I have Shankar Mahadevan's number in my phone, he calls me and he tells me to do these things, or Sonu Nigam or Arijit Singh, or all these biggies, and they're really fascinated with it.
And what about your wife? What does she think about all this?
She's been really supportive with the kind of working hours I had, and she always puts my work first, and she's been really supportive as far as bringing up my kid and taking care of the home. In this 2 months, I'm trying to give back a little bit with her and trying
Good,
to
good.
support her, but she's
Absolutely.
been really supportive.
Okay, my wife Poonam had a question saying, if you're saying everybody's going to work from home, then what is going to happen to studios?
Studios will be there, they will be existent because a lot of times you need a space where you want a couple of musicians to come together and interact, because the way things happen once musicians are interacting is very different than pre-recording stuff and sending it. So there is a lot of vibe which comes out when you're recording at studio. For a
Absolutely.
studio like YRF, it's not a problem because the kind of space we have, we can still maintain social distancing and achieve what we want. Anyways, when we are recording a band, everybody is in a different booth, like we did for Spud. So the drummer is in the male hall, one
Yeah.
guitar player is in one booth, singer is in one booth. So I think for a studio like us, we don't need to worry as much because
Smaller studios
people
might
used
have
to
some issues.
come.
Yeah.
Yes, smaller studios will have some issues where only voiceover kind of work used to happen. But a facility as big as ours already had a very tailored kind of clientele, so which
Right.
is still going to happen. And I don't think there is any other place in this city right now where you can maintain these things and you can achieve what you want to. Say whether it's for film or whether it's for indie artists, because say for example film, you can have your film mixing happening there, you can have your editing happening there, video editing, you can have your VFX, you can have your music recording happening there. At the same
True.
time you can have your dialogue dubbing happening. So even at the whole team, the director and the ads who need to run around different places, they don't need to, they are in a particular facility. So I think there should be more facilities like YRF opening up where these kind of norms can be followed and it's easier for people to work and
Okay.
utilize their time for the best.
Just a quick thing. We are at 7:58, guys, and before we wind up, just a quick thank you to Abhishek for taking the time out from
Thank you, sir.
helping his family and compensating for the time
Yes,
lost. We've been 1 hour away from that, so sorry about that to your wife. But thank you so much for sharing your experience with everybody here and letting
thank you so
us
much,
into a
sir.
little insight into who is Abhishek Khandelwal. So we might just be thrown off Instagram at some point, but so be it.
Mhm.
I just wanted to know if for a band to when you work with indie projects, it's important to hang out with them so that you can do a better job of working with them, or it's okay, they're just a
Sir,
client. How does that?
I think hanging out is the most important thing, whether it's an indie band, whether it's a Bollywood project, because at the end
Okay.
you need to get inside the head of the composer, what he wants to achieve with his
Right.
song. At the end it's his song. So you need to be very friendly with him so that you can understand his
Go.
personality and what he's trying
Go.
to do. So I think
Okay.
it's very important to hang out.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you, sir.
Abhishek.
Thank you
We'll
so
see you
much for
soon.
having me.
Okay, ji.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.